Hello, welcome everyone to the September 6th Community Action Advisory Board meeting. I'm glad you could all join us today. We're going to start with attendance. Rebecca, do you want to start that, please?
Yes. Let's go with David Poland.
Hi, I'm here. I'm the deaf representative.
Councilor Ernie Suggs. Ernie, we can't hear you. It sounds like it's trying to connect to you, but it's not. We'll come to Ernie. It's Cooper.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Oh, we can hear Ernie. Great,
Okay,
thanks.
super. Good morning to everybody.
And Joyce, I don't think we heard you.
I'm here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Megan Mulsoff.
Good morning. I'm Megan Mulsoff, and I'm the low-income representative for District 4.
Fantastic. Board members in the room, we have Rob Perkins.
Do you want me to do? It's Rob Perkins, elected representative from District 3.
And Bridget McCleeman.
Bridget McCleeman, Community Representative, District 2.
And I'm just verifying we have no other board members. Oh, I think we do. Nakia, I apologize, Nakia.
Hi. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. And for staff, we have myself, Rebecca Royce, Kayla Williams will be presenting. We also have Abby Malloy and Janet Snook. And it looks like Councilor Diana Perez, board member, just signed in. Diana, can you?
Yeah, hi everyone. Diana Perez here.
Fantastic. And then we have a few guests that are joining us today in the room. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Shane Scalp, Executive Director for Family Promise of Clark County.
And Nicole Fuller, Case Manager for Family Promise of Clark County.
Good morning. Ann Hawkins.
I'm Ann Hawkins, and I am with City of Vancouver.
Fantastic. And that is, we also have our two ASL interpreters joining us for the meeting, and I believe that is everyone.
All right, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. We're going to start off with approval of the July minutes. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review those. Can I entertain a motion for approval?
So moved. Bridget McCleeman.
Perkins, second.
Discussion, any updates? Okay. So we had a motion and approval to approve the July minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, the July minutes are approved. Thank you. And I'm going to hand it over to Amy for the task force update for legislative advocacy group.
I actually don't, oh, Amy just joined, so we now.
I'm here.
Oh,
Sorry.
Fantastic, Amy. Do you have any updates for legislative?
On the phone talking with somebody. We don't have any updates right yet. I guess the decision packages are out, so whatever that means exactly. I'm like, but yeah, there isn't any updates on that yet.
Fantastic. If anyone is interested in joining the Legislative Advocacy Committee, you can always contact Amy to get onto that subcommittee of the work group for the CAAB.
And we're still going to do with Washington Low Income Housing Alliance this year, right?
Correct.
Okay.
all right, Rebecca, do you have any CNA task force updates for us?
So we have had all of the surveys reviewed by our consultant that does a data review to verify that the data we have is solid data, and put some charts together. Those were presented to the CNA task force at our last meeting. We're currently working with Jackie St. Louis, who is our consultant that's helping with the CNA process on designing questions and targeting individuals for focus groups. So this would primarily be people who are low income that completed the survey and indicated that they would be interested in participating more in the CNA process, including community forums or interviews. So we are working on putting those together. We hope to have the focus groups in mid-October, and then we will use the information we gain from the focus groups to help with the information we provide out into the community forums. And we'll do the community forums. The CNA task force has been discussing how many community forums to do, where they should be at. We are thinking there will be 2 to 3 in-person community forums, and we want to make sure that they're located throughout Clark County, so something that's more central, but then also maybe doing one East County and then one North County, along with doing a virtual option, so people that would like to attend virtually can do that. So we're just in the beginning stages of trying to put the community forums together, but it's all based on the survey. So we have all of that data now, and we're just putting it all into a way that we can present it out to the community for those additional outreach efforts. Dave, do you have a question?
Yes, I would like, just in case the public is watching this, can you say, Rebecca, what CNA task force is? Because CNA, the public wouldn't know what that is. Thank you.
Yeah, so the CNA is the Community Needs Assessment, and the task force is a group of individuals, board members and community members that are working together to help staff design, implement, and collect all of the information that will be used to make a complete assessment report in the end that will be completed and brought to the board for adoption in May.
Question, would you be needing donations for this auction?
So there's no option. It's more focus groups and community forums. It's not, we don't do fundraisers or anything like that for this project.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, our next CNA task force meeting is next Thursday, and then we will keep working on the focus groups and getting those questions designed.
Which date is that, September?
14, but I could be wrong. It's Thursday, next Thursday. I do know that.
Great, thank you for those updates. Next, we're going to invite Kayla Williams to share information about the Eviction Prevention Rent Assistance Program RFA update.
Good morning. So our RFA for EPROP went live on June 12th of this year, and it closed on July 22nd. All applications were reviewed for eligibility and administrative capacity to manage public funds. 5 of our CAAB members made up the subcommittee to review and score the applications. The scores and award amounts are listed in the table below, and a big thank you for our subcommittee. I know there were a few technical issues while working through this RFA, so thank you for bearing with me on my first process here. There were 2 applications that were removed from consideration. One was due to an incomplete application, and then another was deemed as a not eligible organization, and they did not meet the intent of the RFA. EPROP specifically required that at least 10% of our award be allocated to by and for organizations, and we have 3 applications from by and for organizations. We had the Native American Youth and Family Center, or NAYA, Pacific Islander Community Association of Washington, or PICAWA, and the Cascade AIDS Project. And then we have our recommended award amounts listed there. We had 6 applicants that will be awarded their full request, and 1 applicant, YWCA, will be offered 80%, as that is what the remaining budget will allow. Does anybody have questions about our recommendations?
Yes. Council for the Homeless did not get recommended. What's their role become in, they have such a central role so much?
Yes, so this is just a specific program for eviction prevention rental assistance. Council for the Homeless has a already standing prevention program. They just were not approved based on their score to start up with these new dollars, a new program in the community. So nothing will impact their services as it stands. They just didn't get awarded for a new program.
Will they be able to refer into these programs?
Yes, yes. They will still, through the Housing Solutions Center, be placing participants into programs as typical.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I think we are good to move to the next slide.
Wait.
We have a question for Ernie.
I don't know if my machine's working here. I had my hand up, but maybe it didn't work. Can we get like a hard copy of this, or can we print this out when you send it to us?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I will be alerting all the agencies via email, and I can include our CAAB members as well if you'd like that.
All right. Thank you.
We also, well,
Go on vacation and leave us alone.
Vicki, did you have a question?
No.
Okay, fantastic. So we will make sure that the slides also get sent out to the board members after the meeting with any additional information also. So you will have the slide along with the notification that is going out to all of the providers. Any other questions about the EPRAP request for application? Okay, thank you.
Alrighty, next on our list, we have the Emergency Housing Fund. So Washington State Department of Commerce has awarded funds to Clark County with the intent of maintaining current levels of homeless subsidies and emergency housing services. Allowable activities are restricted to emergency housing activities, which are listed here. The dollars will help to maintain existing programs in our community. The programs must have been in operation as of February 2023, and that was a Commerce requirement, and have lost funding due to grants expiring and local document recording fee shortfalls. We cannot use the funds for supplanting. Regardless, or let's see really fast. Yeah, does anybody have questions about this slide or the new funds coming in?
So does this extend the grant period that those people funded originally received?
No, so there's no extension to the grant period. This is a new grant pretty much helping us supplement the loss, the extreme loss of grant dollars that this community and communities all over our state are facing. So we are losing our ESG CV grant, we are losing our SPG grant, and our local document recording fee revenue has gone down substantially. So Commerce has identified that, and the legislation has identified that, and is pushing funds into communities to help us stabilize our services while we prepare for this loss of funding moving forward. And this is part of our CHG SDG package. So it'll follow the typical grant cycle that does.
How much money?
It is about $4 million, and we will have an RFA coming out. So there's more information on the next slide. These funds are from a federal source. So regardless of the legislative intent to maintain current levels of services, these funds originate from the federal source and are subject to a competitive procurement process. So an RFA has to be done for us to allocate these funds. because the RFA is going to target programs that are already in existence in our homeless crisis response system and previously funded with public funds. This RFA is going to be much less intensive than the EPRAP RFA. Most of the RFA questions are going to be objective, and there's not going to be a staff review portion. So we're asking for a subcommittee of 5 CAAB members to review this RFA. It will be much easier and much less time consuming than the EPRAP RFA just was, merely because these programs are already in our system. We've already approved them. We've already funded them. We just need to follow the federal requirements of a procurement process. Does anyone have questions here about the RFA or the need to do one?
So what services are they requesting? Is it rental assistance or?
No, so it's anything that's emergency housing related, anything that falls into that bucket. So that can be things like street outreach, diversion, emergency shelter, transitional housing, rapid rehousing, encampments, housing stability, case management. Really what we will be doing internally is identifying programs that are going to be impacted, i.e. programs that won't be able to be funded, that would have to be ended if we did not supplement them with these dollars. So it'll be very limited to the providers we invite, as we're going to reach out and let them know pretty much we need you to apply for this RFA because we have identified that you need this amount of budget that we cannot fulfill.
Diana has a question.
Hi, thank you. Just a clarification. Is there anything related to childcare or support for childcare while services are being provided or the wraparound approach efforts?
I'm not sure I have an answer for that, Rebecca.
So no, so this is really focused on the homeless crisis response system and the housing services. So child care is not typically an eligible expense under housing stability case management. It's really focused on paying for staff to provide housing case management, to focus in on finding, obtaining, and maintaining housing for people depending on the type of program that it is. So if it's rapid rehousing, it's for households that are currently literally homeless, trying to get into housing. Transitional housing is more engaged in additional supports, could be shelter, but the more although childcare is extremely important and we're lacking resources in our community, it does not fall under an eligible activity for Consolidated Homeless Grant funds.
Okay, is that limitation from under what authority is that limitation placed under?
It's the Government Commerce.
Yeah, with these funds specifically, we cannot create new programs. We cannot support new services. These are really required to go into maintaining what we currently have in the system.
Okay, so State Department of Commerce or?
Yeah,
Correct.
Washington State.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So this is state funding.
It is federal funding that is going through the state.
Block grants.
Okay, federal. All right, thank you.
So we are looking for a subcommittee of 5 CAAB members to do the request for application review. This will be roughly 5 or 6 applications, so there won't be very many to review. The RFA itself will be very brief and very specific questions. And so the time frame for the review subcommittee will be significantly less than any request for applications that you guys have done in the past. Is there anyone interested in being on the subcommittee?
Again, with
I will. Amy, sorry.
Thank you, Amy.
I will unless I have a conflict of interest.
I will. This is Joyce.
Joyce.
This is Megan. I will.
Megan, thank you.
Oh, so you don't need me.
I will.
Okay, so I have Joyce, Amy, Bridget, Megan. Anyone else interested? I'm sorry if I missed anyone.
I will.
Lance.
This is Lance.
Lance. And then if I could get one alternate, just in case Bridget has a conflict, that
You
would be.
put me down for an alternate. I can
Ernie?
get involved with that. That'd be fine.
Thank you, Ernie.
Really good stuff.
Okay, last chance. If I really need somebody, I gotcha. All right, so if we can get a motion to accept this subcommittee, they'll work just like we did with the EPRAC one, where they will, because we have to move quickly, it'll be before our next CAAB meeting. So they'll review the applications and based on the ranking, that's how we will move forward with the application. So if we can have a motion to accept the subcommittee to make.
I move that we accept the subcommittee as shown.
Thank you, Ernie.
Very good, second.
Rob seconded it, and then I will let Melanie continue with the process. Sorry.
No, thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, so there was a motion and a second to approve the subcommittee to review the RFA that was described, and all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Great, thank you, everyone. Thanks for volunteering. All right, so next we're going to move on to, and thank you, Kayla, for the information. That was really helpful. Rebecca, we'll turn it over to you for outcomes report.
Yes, thank you. I apologize. I spilled some tea and I was trying to do a little bit of cleanup. It's the second time I've spilled my tea this morning. Okay, so we have our lovely outcomes report. So we saw this at our last meeting, and that report was the third quarter report. So it was July 1st through March 30th. Now we're doing a full year's report. So this is the full fiscal year for 2023. So these are the final reports for that annual allocation of funds and their annual report period and the year-to-date goals. So when we look at the report, what we really want to see is something close to 100% in the achieved year-to-date, that percent achieved. We are still reeling from the pandemic and the effects of the pandemic, and some services we're seeing quite a bit higher than what they had before. Some saw lower than expected services than they had seen before. But we also had new staff within a couple of programs that we were funding. And so the reporting got a little skewed and was counted a little bit different. So Clark College is a really good example of that. You can see their numbers are very high. They changed the model of how they were doing their services and things like that. So they ended up serving a lot more people than they had originally anticipated. We had new programs come in. So we talked about this last time, Battleground Healthcare, but they were able to really get that program up and running just because the demand, once they were able to get the program running, they were able to just go for it and were able to serve a lot of people to meet that need. When staff looked at the reports and the outcomes, we're really looking to see what is outside anywhere from 80% to 120%. We know that, just through the normal program operations, targeting is not always at 100%. So really 80 to 120% is what we consider with meeting the goals. Anything outside of that is what we start looking at and really wanting to understand what's going on. Again, pandemic effects are still in effect, especially for our community action programs there. So I did highlight a couple of notes down at the bottom of our community action programs. So that I could highlight a couple of them that were really outside of the range. the volunteer lawyers program had indicated that, during the pandemic, they've been trying to figure out new ways of getting people to respond to their satisfaction surveys. And they had lower response rates than what they were hoping for. So that when we look at the outcome of the number of individuals who resolved their legal issues or felt that their legal issues were resolved, is really a low indicator, just because they didn't have as many people filling out the survey.
Rebecca, is that because they appoint attorneys now in the courts for like evictions and stuff?
No, it's really, this one really specifically is when it's typically their program, when they're done receiving either the legal advice clinic or meeting with an attorney, they're asked to complete a survey. And then in that survey, they ask, do you feel your legal issue is resolved? And they just weren't getting the responses back. And so they're trying to figure out ways of engaging people to respond to those surveys better.
So that's a metric that measures how people feel about the service.
Correct. That's the change, the outcome that happens, not the fact that they received legal assistance. So when they receive it, they're considered as served.
Not the legal resolution.
Correct.
That's a different resolution.
Correct. It could be positive or negative in the fact that their legal issue is resolved. It could be what they thought, hoped to happen, or it could be not a resolution that they wanted to happen. It could be a parenting plan that did not go well. And so, but it's still resolved. And so it could, moving on to the homeless crisis response system section. So this one is outlined like all the previous ones, where we have them in their categories, the system coordination and data collection section, the outreach services, shelter services, so that's how we have them all designated. There were quite a few that were outside of our 80 to 120% range, and we've been working with them to try to identify. Within the homeless crisis response system, the program's receiving quite a bit of other funding that they were prioritizing. And dependent on the type of program, we were either the reporting kind of overlaps and stuff. So it kind of makes things, trying to combine it all and make it understandable is complex with all of the funding and the different funding sources that they were receiving. Diana, did I see your hand raised? You're muted.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I apologize. You answered it when you moved on down. But I was leading to the bigger picture of all these programs listed in this document. What percentage are out below the 80%? Is it just trying to get a sense? And is that typical? Prior years, or is that really indicative of this still coming back from effects of the pandemic?
It because of all of the funding, it's still thrown everything in the loop. So it is only because of the pandemic effects, but it's not typical, like when we look at programs prior to, where they were more stable. They had kind of a set amount of funding. They could really gauge and predict how many people they were going to serve and all of those things. So since the pandemic, all of the funding, the rapid increases in rents and hotel costs, it's really kind of thrown all of the metrics into a loop. So what we've been doing and what is our typical review process, especially now that we're looking at the annual amounts, is we take a look, did this program exist last year? Did they have similar results last year? If they're very off, we usually check again, like we'll be like, okay, this might be just an anomaly year. We get some understanding of what's happening, and then we'll check with them again next year. If their goals, if their predictions for how many people they're going to serve and the outcomes they're going to achieve are off significantly outside that 80 to 120% rule 2 years in a row, then we sit down and we're like, we ask them what is going on. Then we look at modifying contracts, modifying outcomes, or if they're underperforming, then we start talking about what performance improvement plans. If they're serving a lot more than they had predicted, really it's more of a just an issue of our contracts and their targeted numbers not meeting what is actually happening. So we will increase what their target is. If they're underperforming, then we go with more of a performance improvement plan, because most of these programs were funded through a request for application. And the number of people they're serving and the outcomes, you guys scored them to get them to be funded, right? So that comes into that. So we really need to make sure that if they say in a request for application that they're going to serve this many people and these are the outcomes they're going to achieve, that we hold them accountable to meeting those requirements. But we also understand programs that are brand new take a little time to ramp up and get going. You know, the pandemic, again, I sound like a broken record. I understand that. But we really want to look into it, but we want to make sure our programs are held accountable to what they applied for in the request for applications.
So, questions. The annual report period, it's up to June or July 2023, but these aren't ending contracts, right?
Correct. The majority of these have a contract period, which is 2 years. This is just the first year of that 2-year contract. But all of the budget and the outcomes are all laid out in their contract on an annual amount, and that's how we report it out.
Council for the Homeless has a date range of 2 years.
Some of them have a wonky one if they got different funding and things like that. So there are still a few, although most of the programs, at least as we talked about in the past, that had weird contract dates, most of them have sunsetted and are gone, but we do have a couple of them that do have a weird date in them still. And that's why we make sure we include.
So are the dollar numbers for the 2 years on that?
Yes, so that would match up to whatever the contract or the proposed annual report period is.
So another question. I see New Life Friends Church, The Rock, and Samaritan House, and Faith Partners for Housing. Did those come through with the other applications, or was it subsequent when I missed it?
So the New Life, yes, when they originally applied for their transitional housing, it was one program for transitional housing and very brand new. And we realized as we were working with them within the first 6 months that it would be easier if they broke it out into two. So there was no additional funding. The funding, the total amount they were funded through the request for application was split between, one is female focused and one is a male focused transitional housing program. So yes, they did come through the RFA, but no, it looks a little bit different just because we found that worked better.
Remember the name, that's all.
Right.
And the Faith Partners for Housing?
That was a special project that was requested of us to fund for a roommate matching program. And that is now ended. As of June 30th, that program has ended.
Is it December 31st?
Yes, I apologize. That one, when we've also are, just as an FYI for the board, we're trying to bring in the other staff members that oversee those contracts. So when you have questions, it's not just relying on me because I don't work with all of these programs. Luis is our program coordinator that oversees the Faith Partners for Housing contract. And he unfortunately couldn't be here this morning. Otherwise I'd be able to provide a little bit more context for that specific contract. Kayla is here for any of the contracts that she is overseeing, but we haven't had specific questions for those programs yet.
So one more question. The Community Foundation Fund that was set up, is that ongoing, or was that just till June?
So the original funds were just one-time funds, but we did receive another allocation, a very small allocation of, I think it was $35,000, which we have not received the grant agreement or anything from the state, so we haven't been able to move forward with the process with those funds.
Do we know the process they use to reallocate these funds to non?
Yes, and they are actually going to be here at our November meeting to provide you an overview of their entire process for that. But yes, so they have a community group, a committee of community members that is a diverse group. They have an ongoing application process, and so they will definitely go through how they determine, but it's all focused on making sure that we are increasing the capacity of services and agencies that are by and for organizations. So by and for a very specific population, including our BIPOC community.
The Unity Center, is that Janice Youth?
No, that is separate. I believe they are their own nonprofit.
Okay, thank you.
So I sent out the report on Friday so you guys would have a little chance to see it beforehand. I know it's still in very tiny print. One of the things that I wanted to call out, you'll see some notes at the bottom of our homeless crisis response system section. The Council for the Homeless, I know this has been coming up. So their community planning contract, you'll see their outcomes are kind of all over the place. They've still been doing a lot of community outreach and work just in general. But the funding for some of their services was put on pause because the Homeless Action Plan has been put on pause. That will be resuming shortly. We've just received some additional guidance from Commerce regarding the state's Homeless Action Plan, which will guide us in our local Homeless Action Plan. So if you notice that one, the spending is under on that contract. And then, as you had mentioned, New Life Friends Church, they also, it's just a new agency. So they're trying to figure out how to get up and running, and they are trying to do more of a sober living, which is a little bit different than what we have traditionally done. So we are working with them together to try to figure out how to make sure that their program abides by the guidelines and is also a successful program. And then our last page is where we pull information from all of the programs. So our participation satisfaction survey updates. So we had, for the year, we had 5,300 surveys were sent out to individuals and households that were served in the fiscal year. So July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023. We received just over 1,000 responses back, which is about a 19.4% response rate. We like to see that a little over 20%, which is more of a historical average for satisfaction surveys. So it's a little bit low, but we do still see a nice response rate of 89.4% of people indicating a positive overall experience. And again, if somebody indicates a neutral or negative response, those are not counted. They have to indicate that it was a positive experience working with the agency. So 89.4% for our participations, their satisfaction in there. Our community engagement, this is a new one that we've started reporting for you guys just to kind of show how many volunteers that we are getting to help in our programs. And so we had almost 2,000 volunteers help all of our programs. We had almost 24,000 hours of volunteer work that was provided. And with that, 4,500 of those hours were people who identified as being low income. Again, all of our programs don't use volunteers. Those that do track them for us but they don't always ask if they're low income. So we know that this is a really low an underreport of how many are volunteer hours from people who identify as being low income, but it's really still a strong number of hours that are provided. And then if we were to put a value on that volunteer time, it's over $700,000 that our agencies are receiving in free labor, essentially. So we really value the volunteers that help out all of our different programs.
So hours by low-income volunteers. How many volunteers is that?
We don't specifically ask that question. We ask 3 questions within our quarterly report, which is the total number of volunteers, the total number of hours, and then the total number of hours by low-income volunteers.
Okay, so that's not data available.
Correct.
I think Amy had her hand up at one point. Did you have a
Well, I
question?
was just wondering. Well, yeah, I was just wondering. There's 98% positive. So the other 2% that would have been negative or neutral, what? There was only that many. 2%.
So, So I'm sorry, just to clarify, you're asking about, so we had about a 10% of the total of the 1,000 responses indicated they had a negative response. Or it could be neutral. And a lot of times it is neutral, a neutral or a negative response. And then the agencies work with the participants. They look for trends especially when there's negative responses, they look for trends, and then they work to improve the services that they're doing based on the feedback that they get through the satisfaction survey.
So why is that big chunk red then?
Because this is just kind of a meter, and we just wanted to kind of give it to you. Like if it fell below, I believe this is 60%, that would be a significant red flag to us.
It's not working for so many.
Right. So, and I believe this is about 60 to 80% is medium. So we really want to see over 80% positive experience. And we're typically up around that.
Yeah,
88 to
just
90.
sort of a little misleading graphic, because I thought, hey, we've got a whole bunch of red here. Must be in the warning area. Yeah, okay.
The graph on race really shows the disproportionality.
Right. So the last part on the top is the agency grievances. So for all of the agencies for the year, there were 54 grievances filed. 48 of them have been resolved, which is fantastic. We want to see that they're being resolved. There's 6 unresolved. That could be that they were just recently filed near the end of the year. And there's time for the resolution can take 30 to 60 days, depending on if there's an appeal placed or, things like that. So there's a reason why they might not be resolved. And then staff will keep an eye on that and make sure that those are all fully resolved. And when we look at the number of programs, so 29% of all of our programs, 48 different programs, 29% of them received a grievance. This is just more data for you to see. We don't see any concerns about the number of programs. And we look at the number of grievances filed within agencies, and that's where we watch for red flags. It is not uncommon for at any time somebody to be unhappy with the service that they receive from one of our nonprofits. They didn't get an answer to a question they had. There's a myriad of reasons why they might have filed a grievance. Really, we want to make sure that the agencies are working through those grievances, resolving those grievances, looking for trends within those grievances, and improving their processes and services to make sure that they don't have as many grievances moving forward.
And all these grievances are filed through the agency that they have the issue with, right?
Correct. There's each agency has their own grievance policy that they must follow. Staff review their grievance forms and their policies and verify that people can grieve in a multitude of ways, that they can grieve to different people so that they have the most, the least amount of barriers in the way of them being able to file that grievance. And then this bottom section is just an overview of the demographics that we've been providing. So this is Not all programs collect all of the different demographics, so we put in how many responses they received in the program or for that demographic, and provided the breakdown for you just to get an idea of who we are seeing coming into our system. And that is all from me.
Great. Thank you so much for all that information. I love the way it looks. It's really easy to follow and very clear. Thank you. All right, next we have Ann Hawkins of the City of Vancouver to talk about the consolidated plan update.
Thank you very much. I
Ann.
appreciate your time today. I wanted to take a few minutes to give you an overview of what we here at the City of Vancouver are doing in economic housing or economic prosperity and housing, and addressing the needs for the consolidated plan. If you could go ahead and go to the next slide. Thank you. The consolidated plan is a 5-year strategic plan that's required by HUD. This document consists of community participation and consultation, including internal and external stakeholders such as yourselves, other plans and reports. The city has a lot of activities that are happening right now with our comprehensive plan and establishing that out. We have from the affordable housing plan. So there's a lot of information here that is pulling through and informing our process. We go through and we take this information, and after it's collected and we look at it, we determine what our needs are. What are we going to be able to do in the coming 5 years, and how are we going to be able to address that? So again, this consolidated plan sets these goals, and we let HUD know. We are aware of the fact that we're receiving funds from you for CDBG, we're receiving funds from you for home, and this is what we have observed that our community needs, and this is how we're going to be investing it. Also included in the consolidated plan is the action plan, the first year of the annual action plan, and we are required annually to report to HUD. We told you in the consolidated plan, this is how we were going to be utilizing the money. This is what we are actually going to do with it this year. And then at the end of the fiscal year, we go through and we report to HUD again under our CAPER, our Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation, which is basically a self-evaluation that says, you gave us the money, we said we were going to do this, this is actually what we were able to go ahead and do within our community. Next slide, thank you. To give you an idea of the number of funds that we're working with, this is a graph of what has happened over the past 5 years with the allocations from HUD. We generally are working with about $1.39 million for the CDBG program and about $789,000 for home program. So overall, obviously, if we have more money, that's great. We have a limited resource that we're working with, and the point of this plan is to go through and say, over the next 5 years, we're going to take this $1.3 million every year, and we're going to invest it this way. Next slide. As a part of instituting this plan and creating this plan, there's several things that we are doing internally. First thing that we're doing is redesigning our community participation plan. HUD calls this the citizen participation plan, but we didn't feel that it was inclusive to representing everyone within our community, and so we are addressing it as the community participation plan. This includes changes that have become necessary as a result of recent events within our society with COVID, outlining how we are going to reach out to our community utilizing social media, how we're going to utilize virtual hearings and public comment periods. We'll be going through and we'll be taking a look at all the data that's been accumulated with all, as I mentioned previously, all the other plans that are taking place within the city. We're going to be aligning our consolidated plan with the city comprehensive and strategic plans. Totally aware of the fact that the comprehensive plan won't be submitted until June of 2025, which puts us smack in the middle of our next consolidated plan. So when it comes through in our next plan, we'll be able to fully envelop that. We're also aligning this also aligning this plan with the HUD goals. Next screen. As I stated with the community participation plan, we're going through and the purpose of that document is to encourage the participation of the community in the program and encourage them in the planning and the implementation and the assessment. It outlines the procedures for comments, objections, complaints, public hearings, where we're going to publish it, how we're going to get the information out to the community, letting them know that these funds are available or these applications are open for the funds that are going to be coming in the coming year. And this has been streamlined to show what we'll be doing within the entire 5-year period, and also what we'll be doing with each step. How will we be addressing the consolidated plan, the action plan, the CAPER, and then how we're, again, informing the community. Next slide. As I mentioned previously, aligning with HUD and their strategic goals, and these are the 4 goals that they have outlined how they would like to see their funds utilized within the community. They'd like it to support underserved communities. They'd like to ensure access to and increase production of affordable housing, to promote ownership, and to advance sustainable communities. Next screen. So based upon the information that is available to us, the data that we've gathered, the conversations that we have had, we've been able to establish 4 priority needs within the city of Vancouver, and that is affordable housing, household stability and poverty reduction, neighborhood improvements, and economic opportunity. Next slide. And the question would be, where would we be utilizing these funds? And we've got 2 maps here. The map on the left shows the census tract block groups, which is where HUD indicates that we are able to invest the monies. The structure for the CDBG is up to 60% of area median income, and home is up to 80% for home ownership. Where we can invest this money accurately is reflected in the City of Vancouver Equity Index. Where is it most needed? And as you can tell from the colors on these maps, they really do blend. Where we can invest it is where it is needed. Next screen. So to give you some idea about what it is that we're going to be doing and what we are looking at as far as the timeline between now and submission to HUD. Right now, we're in the process of completing our community engagement. In October, our application workshop will occur with a funding notice for the 2024 CDBG and home funds. Applications will be due in December. They'll be reviewed in February and scored in March. In April, we will take those results of the applications to the City Council for review and their recommendations, approval of the recommendations. And then in May, we'll have a public hearing for the consolidated plan and the annual action plan. As I indicated, the consolidated plan, the first year of the action plan is included in that. And then we will submit to HUD at the end of May. Once they've reviewed that, made their comments, asked us to address any corrections or concerns that they may have, and we'll go ahead and we'll be implementing that in July of 2024 for the first year of this new consolidated planning period. So some of the questions that we've asked and some of the things that we have done in order to develop these are, what are some of the needs and barriers and challenges that the community is seeing, that the nonprofit organizations are seeing, that our partners are seeing? Next slide. And that would include some things such as where are the most needed services for those that are experiencing homelessness, where are the most needed services for those that are being served, what barriers are experiencing in the access of the services, what barriers are occurring in the delivery of the services, and some of the challenges that may be faced with the use of federal grants. There's a lot of agencies in the community that have not come to our office for applications previously, and we just want to make sure that we're getting the information to them, that the funds are available, that if it meets the need, if it meets the the community need, if it meets the requirements of HUD, if it falls within the plan that we have within our consolidated planning process. What can we do to help get those funds into the community? Some of the responses that we've received with that is reporting it is a challenge. You know, it's a small organization. It's difficult for them to be able to request the money and provide the reporting and getting everything in together from there. So these are the questions that we're presenting out. This is the process that we are undertaking. And again, very excited and thankful for your time to be able to share with you what's going on here on this side and how we're able to go ahead and address these needs with these funds from HUD. So does anybody have any questions? Is there anything that I can address for you regarding this process?
The maps that you showed a couple slides ago, could we go back to that for a sec? Is the equity index city-produced metric, or is that a different organization? Are those areas just the same as the block groups or not?
They are similar to the block groups. They're not all identical to it. These are based out of neighborhoods, and this is information that was gathered as a result of the comprehensive planning process that's being done by the city.
So you're using city neighborhoods.
And if I could just chime in a little bit. So the Washington State Environmental Health Disparities Map that uses some socioeconomic factors as well, looking at some of the health aspects, you know, your zip code dictating your outcome. So there's data from the state that was used to build this equity index.
Thank you, Diana. I appreciate that.
Very curious about whether that could be helpful for other jurisdictions, school districts.
Yeah. Yes, I would refer you to the Washington State Environmental Health Disparities Map.
Environmental
Disparities.
And it's a tool that was put together by the state Department of Commerce, actually, or Department of Health. I'm sorry. Anyway, so really to look at those socioeconomic factors from for environmental justice as well. So it was through the HEAL Act. So it's a tool that was built for all of the state jurisdictions to use for policy work. Perfect tool to refer to.
All disparities.
So with this equity index map, it took that data, that information, and then used some of our local data as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Anne? All right, thank you for all that information. Sam and Jim are not able to be here, so Anne is actually going to stay with us and provide us with the City of Vancouver Affordable Housing and Homelessness update.
Thank you. July 2023, the city accepted the Affordable Housing Fund applications for housing production and preservation. The city received 7 applications totaling $8.23 million in requests. The review committee recommended 3 applications for funding totaling $2.4 million. And these awards will deploy all of the remaining 2026 to 2023 levy funds. The awarded projects will support the production of 33 affordable rental housing units for households experiencing very low income, which is designated at 50% or less of the AMI. The city is going to hold additional AHF application process again in January of 2024. Next month, in October, the CDBG and home applications open. We'll have our workshops in the open application at that time, and those will be due in December. And then another update with the third safe stay. The contracts were signed this Monday. They'll have 50 days to complete construction on the third safe stay location. We've also gotten a lease agreement from DOT for the 4th Safe Stay, and legal is reviewing it. It is possible that the Safe Stay 4 might be completed before Stay Safe 3, sorry, lots of words. And there's also an RFP out currently for an operator for the Safe Park. And those are the updates that we have for those two items.
Great, thank you so much. All right, Rebecca, you have a board member update.
I do have a board member update. So at this time of year, we try to go and start our process for filling any vacant seats on the board. We have quite a few board members that are up for their term and reappointment. And so we typically have the executive team do the application process and interviews if they're needed. But two of our executive team members, Alicia Topper, treasurer, and Rob Perkins, Evergreen Board school board member, are both up for reappointment this year and therefore cannot participate as the interview or subcommittee. So we need to create one for this process so that we have a full subcommittee that can review applications that come in. So as you can see, we have the districts 2 and 3 elected officials, Alicia and Rob, District 5 community representative, which is Lance. We also will be doing District 1 low-income representative, which is Jamie's position. District 3 low-income representative, this one is recently vacated, and I'll mention that in just one moment. And then our District 5 low-income representative, which is still vacant since the change in the county council districts. We've been unsuccessful in filling that position today. So we have 6 total positions that we need to have applications for current board members. If they are interested in maintaining their position on the board, they would also need to reapply. So Rob, make sure you put in your application to stay on the board.
I'll let you know on the 10th of November.
Right, and so Rob is up for re-election, so that will also be a deciding factor for him if he's able to stay on the board. So we are, I wanted to mention our District 3 low-income representative was recently vacated. This was Chris Holland's position. He is no longer with the Urban League, which is the entity that nominated him to be on the board. I worked with Chris to see if there were other ways that he might be able to remain a board member, but unfortunately he's not able to fulfill the requirement of being nominated to the board for a low-income representative position. So that position is now vacated, and we'll be advertising for that to fill that position. So that gets us to our 6 total positions. So I'm in need of a 3-person subcommittee to do the application review and then interviews if they're needed, and then final member selection. Interviews are only done if we get multiple applicants for the same position. If we only receive one application, the board reviews those applications to verify that they meet and would be a good board representative. And if not, then we re-advertise for those positions. So that is the process. I work closely with that subcommittee to set up interviews if needed on time schedules that work for the subcommittee, that type of thing. So the time that it would take as a subcommittee member is going to be the time to review the applications. Applications are not very long. You've all filled them out before, so you know what they look like. So it's reviewing those. A lot of this is done via email unless we need to do the interviews themselves. Then the interview time is usually, we usually give about a half an hour per applicant, and the number of interviews will really be determined on the number of applications we receive for the different positions.
And which month will the interviews be happening?
So it's hard to say exactly. I'm going to advertise shortly. We will send out the news release and do all of, send it out to our stakeholders list, which is over 400 people. We'll send it out to the board members so that you can forward it onto your networks. We usually give about 3 weeks from the date we release the news release to allow for applications to come in. And then we'll give you guys a couple of weeks to review the applications. And then if we need to do the interviews, then we'll schedule them, hopefully within a couple of weeks after that. So October, November, we want to do them earlier as possible because they have to be approved by the county council. The county council tends to take a little time off in December because we want them to be approved before the January meeting. So I'm hopeful that we will be doing interviews and selections and things like that in late October, maybe early November.
And just for clarification reason, in case any of the public are watching, some of these positions are open to the public who are not elected officials, and we would welcome people that are just ordinary people that care about helping people that are poor, low income, homeless. Or would you expand on what we would be looking for?
So the criteria that will be required, so our District 2 and 3 elected officials are anyone that is elected through a general election process. And so that could be our county level elections, the treasurer, the auditor, the county council. It could be city council members, it can be school board members. There's also the cemetery districts. It could be Cowlitz tribe members that are elected, the elders.
Oh, wait, that's an appointable.
So basically, as long as there is some sort of a general election, then they meet the requirement. And then it has to be based in the district. So county-wide elected officials can serve in any of our district positions. So Alicia Topper, as a county-wide elected treasurer, can serve actually in any district because she's elected by the people in that district. Rob can only serve in District 3 because the primary, even though he scans 2 different districts, the primary people that elect him are from District 3. And so that's how we work on who can fill those roles. So District 1 and 3 low-income representatives, those have to live in the district that they're representing. Same with the District 5 representative, and then the District 5 community, all 3 low-income representatives have to have either lived experience and be nominated by a group of people through a petition to represent their interests, or if they are heavily involved in volunteering or work for an agency that primarily serves people who are low income or homeless, that agency can nominate them to be on the board to represent the communities and the people that they serve through their agency. And then our District 5 community representatives, so that person will need to live in District 5, and then there's no additional requirements for our community representatives. They can be just an interested citizen that is wanting to take on the work of the advisory board.
That was very clear. Thank you, Rebecca. And I would suggest anybody that's watching us interested and they want more information, contact Rebecca Royce and ask more questions.
Absolutely.
How long is the term?
So the terms aren't changing, so 3-year terms, and they'll start effective January 1st, so 2024, and then they will go through December 31st, 2026.
Because I thought mine was up this year.
I believe yours is up next year. But I will double check, make sure I didn't miss anybody. So if there are 3 committee members, board members that would be interested in serving on this subcommittee, it won't be a lot of time, and we'll schedule it around what works for you, that would be greatly appreciated.
I'm David. I'd be happy to help.
I'm Amy. I will be happy to go too.
And if I can get an, who's our only remaining? Melanie, are you available as our executive team? The only available executive team member?
Yep.
Fantastic. So Amy, David, and Melanie, I appreciate that. And if I can get a motion and hold that.
Would anyone like to entertain a motion?
I move that we set the committee as mentioned.
Thank you, Ernie.
Second that.
Thanks, Amy.
The third.
All right. Any discussion? Further discussion needed? All right. We would like to vote on a motion to approve the subcommittee of Amy, David, and Melanie. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Great, thank you. We look forward to seeing those applications. Well, we are cruising through our agenda. All right, we have a save the date. Our next CAAB meeting is November 1st at 9 a.m. We'll have an in-person and virtual option, so we invite you to join us once again. And we have a few minutes for public forum. If anyone who is a guest here at our meeting would like to speak or share information, now would be your time.
This is Amy. Can I share some? I know that this doesn't have to do with housing, but are we prepared for, or does anybody know what's going to go on? You know that the SNAP benefits for able working adults between the age of 18 and 50, their benefits will be stopping October 1st. They only get 3 months every 3 years now, according to the FDA, or not the FDA, but the SNAP benefits, the USDA, I think that's what it is. Does anybody know about that?
I have not been aware.
Okay, yeah, because I'm on the SNAP benefit. It says as of October 1st, benefits for people that get the SNAP, it will increase 3.5%. But people that are full-time college students will no longer get SNAP. Part-time can get SNAP, but the able-bodied adults without dependents are between the ages of 18 and 50, don't have a disability, and don't have any children at home. They will only get 3 months every 3 years of benefit of food stamps. So there's going to be a lot of hungry people. Just
Thank you for sharing, Amy.
Okay. Amy, do you know whether that includes able-bodied adults working in public service like AmeriCorps or similar programs?
What do you mean exactly?
I'm just thinking about an adult with no dependents who is involved in that kind of thing. Whether
Well,
this
if
3
you,
months, 3 years also applies to them, because I'm pretty sure they're eligible for a SNAP.
yeah, I'm not exactly sure about that. I know that I just found this on the SNAP thing. They're trying to work with people. They're trying to work with they're trying to work and get this changed, but it's not looking that good yet. And it started, people don't even know about it because it started in July. Their 3 months started in July. So meaning September, that's it. They will not be getting no benefits in October. And unless that changes federally, I don't know. I can probably, I just know it's called ABAWD. So able-bodied adults without dependents.
Thanks. I know where to ask my other questions about that, so.
There's no other public comments from the room.
Okay. All right, we will adjourn this meeting at 10:14 a.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Sorry, before
You
we
too.
go, I have a question,
Quick update.
other business. So I had sent out to board members an opportunity to do some legislative advocacy training. This is being put on by the Washington State Community Action Partnership. Because we are a member of their association, our board members are welcome to attend that advocacy training, and I would highly recommend it. I have not received any responses from anyone that is interested in attending. So if you can please let me know by close of business today, I can notify them to get you registered.
I will. This is Amy.
Okay, thank you, Amy.
I would, but I'd be on vacation, so I can't do it.
Woohoo! Enjoy your vacation, David. All right, if you are interested, please just send me an email and I will make sure that you get registered. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, now we'll adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everyone. Sorry about that. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Be healthy.
Rebecca, can I get a copy
Bye,
of?
everyone.
Bye.